The sun hadn't risen yet when the fisherman made the call. It was just past 5:12 a.m., and the sea off Colombia's Tumaco coast was still wrapped in gray mist. He was out early, chasing shrimp, dragging lines, thinking about nothing at all. Then he saw it. Something large, half submerged, drifting just beneath the surface. At first, he thought it was a dead whale. The shape was wrong. No movement. Just a dark outline in the water, as if something man-made was trying to stay hidden and failing. His voice cracked when he called it in. He didn't know what it was, but he knew it didn't belong there. By the time the Colombian Navy scrambled a patrol boat, the sea had already erased the trail. No wake, no debris, not even an oil slick, just silence. But that single moment triggered a manhunt, one that would cross hemispheres, burn through intelligence networks, and lead investigators to a terrifying realization. This wasn't the first time something had vanished in these waters, and it wouldn't be the last. They call them Narco Submarinos. Most people have never seen one. That's by design. They are not military submarines, not sleek nuclear machines built in naval shipyards. These are handmade monsters, assembled deep in the jungle by ex-soldiers, engineers gone rogue, and cartel mechanics working under armed watch. At first glance, they're crude. Fiberglass hulls, stolen engines, patched wiring, bolt-on periscopes. But underestimating them is a fatal mistake. Each one is a ghost built for one purpose: to transport massive loads of cocaine across oceans, undetected. In 2019, the cartels built their most ambitious vessel yet. A project so secret, so technologically advanced, that some officials still argue whether it existed at all. They called it Leviathan. No one knows who coined the name, but it fit. It was nearly 30 meters long, able to hold 4 men, 6.6 tons of cocaine, and enough diesel fuel to travel 3,000 nautical miles submerged at a shallow depth. It had no official records, no country of origin, but the blueprints, later discovered in fragments, revealed one startling detail. The design wasn't Colombian. It was Soviet. According to a leaked DEA report, 2 of the engineers were former naval contractors from Ukraine and Belarus, men with decades of experience building submersibles for Arctic exploration. After the fall of the USSR, they vanished into the black market. In 2018, they resurfaced, quietly flown into the jungle under fake names. Locals say they were never seen during the day. Supplies were brought in on foot. Construction took nearly 10 months. Workers were paid in bricks of uncut cocaine. And when it was finished, it didn't look like a DIY boat. It looked like a machine of war. Leviathan was wrapped in radar-absorbent paint. It had heat suppression insulation around its engine core. It emitted no AIS signal, no GPS pings. The radio equipment used frequency-hopping encryption that changed every 8 seconds. On satellite scans, it appeared as a shadow, just noise. The crew was selected from the Gulf Clan's most trusted unit. 4 men, all under 5 feet 8 inches, all trained in long-duration confinement and chemical rebreathing systems. One of them, call sign Al-Phil, was a former Colombian Navy diver dishonorably discharged for smuggling. They were told only 2 things: make it to Guatemala and never surface. On October 9, 2019, at 3:42 a.m., Leviathan launched from a mangrove inlet under complete radio silence. A single light blinked twice before fading into the waves. It was the last confirmed sighting of the vessel. What happened next remains one of the most enduring mysteries in narco history. No distress signals were ever sent. No tracking buoys were released. Days passed, then weeks. The cartel leadership grew impatient, but not worried. These submarines often operated in blackout. Missed rendezvous weren't uncommon. Smugglers knew the rules. Contact means exposure. But something didn't sit right. On October 12th, 3 days after launch, a listening station in Costa Rica intercepted a brief burst of unencrypted radio static. The coordinates that followed placed the signal somewhere in the Caribbean basin, far off the planned route. It lasted just 1.7 seconds, then silence. Around the same time, a known cartel fixer, Ivan Carranza, was seen in Cartagena making an unusual request. He was offering $50,000 cash for oceanic depth charts near Nicaragua. According to an informant, he looked panicked, sweating. He left the city that night and was never seen again, until 4 months later. In March 2020, Carranza was pulled over by highway patrol outside of Cali. A busted tail light. The stop should have been nothing. But inside his vehicle, police found a black bag containing 3 USB drives, a blood-stained schematic, and a satellite phone with salt corrosion on the antenna. He was arrested. Within 48 hours, he was dead, hanged in his cell with no surveillance footage available. The prison listed it as a suicide, but the autopsy showed no marks around the neck. The USBs were decrypted by Colombian intelligence with help from the DEA. Inside were logs, engine temperatures, depth markers, internal CO2 readings, scrubber cycles. The last entry was time-stamped. October 12, 2019, 4:16 a.m. 14 minutes after that final log, the data stops completely. No shutdown code, no reboot attempt, nothing, just a drop into silence. But even data tells stories. In the final hour of the logs, CO2 levels began to spike. The air scrubbers struggled. Electrical load increased erratically. And then, a sudden drop in cabin pressure, followed by a thermal spike. To anyone familiar with submarine systems, it's the signature of failure, catastrophic failure. But this is where the story takes a darker turn. Cartel documents later recovered during a raid in Chaco revealed a contingency policy, Protocolo Murciélago, a directive given only in high-risk smuggling operations. If a vessel is compromised, if it deviates too far off course, if systems begin to fail, if contact with the command node is lost for more than 2 hours, the crew is ordered to scuttle the submarine using internal detonators in the ballast tanks. The charges are activated manually. There's no escape. Why such a brutal fail-safe? Simple, plausible deniability. No wreckage, no prosecution, no body, no case. And most importantly, no cocaine falling into government hands. It was a suicide clause, and some believe it was triggered, but others disagree. In April 2020, just off the coast of Honduras, a fleet of shrimp trawlers reported sonar anomalies, metallic objects resting on the seafloor over 3,000 meters down. When they pulled their nets, a fragment of scorched steel was recovered. It bore a faded red stamp, September 2019. The serial matched a ventilation ring from Leviathan's blueprint. The Colombian Navy denied involvement. U.S. forces declined to comment. The wreck was never formally investigated. Some suspect it was quietly marked, mapped, and left alone. Because even at that depth, recovery would cost tens of millions. And the cargo on board? Too unstable. Cocaine stored for long durations under pressure begins to break down, especially if seawater breaches the containment barrels. What was once a $2 billion payload might now be a chemical soup. But then something stranger happened. A year after Leviathan disappeared, a second vessel was detected off the coast of Panama. Larger, sleeker, and, based on acoustic profiles, nearly identical in design. It surfaced for just 9 seconds before disappearing into the Pacific Trench. Some believe this was Leviathan 2, a follow-up, improved from the data recovered through the Carranza USBs. Others believe it was the same vessel, recovered, repaired, relaunched, a ghost ship returned from the deep. In the years since, the mystery of the disappearing submarine has taken on a mythic quality in narco corridors. Some say the crew is still alive, taken by a rival cartel or exfiltrated by a rogue CIA unit. Others claim Leviathan was never meant to arrive. It was a diversion, designed to draw attention while another vessel made the real delivery. And there's one more theory, that Leviathan was never lost. that it reached Guatemala, that the logs were faked, that the blood on the schematic was planted, and that somewhere, maybe in an underground vault outside of Europe, 6.6 tons of ultra-pure cocaine changed hands in the quietest $2 billion sale in criminal history. We may never know. The sea doesn't give back its secrets, and Leviathan, whether it lies in pieces at the bottom of the Caribbean or still moves silently through the currents, remains the perfect crime, unseen, unheard, and unsolved.